Hi there, it's me again. So we broke down Constitutional Amendment W, Constitutional Amendment X, and Constitutional Amendment Z. Now we're going to get into the initiatives on the November 2018 general election ballot for South Dakota. I am a registered independent, I am not registered Republican, and I am not registered Democrat. So I don't know if that makes a difference to you, but why I'm doing these videos is because I had friends and family and people that I work with asking and they were all confused about how the wording in these bills and initiatives and these amendments were, and they asked if I could help maybe sort it out a little bit. So I did the reading, I did the research, and I did some checking and found out why. So I'm going to break it down for you here too, just in case you're in the same boat as many people that I know, not quite sure which way you want to vote. Initiative 24. I am 24. And this is a big one. It's kind of confusing, and honestly, I'm a little on the fence with this. I sort of want to vote for it, and I sort of don't. So hopefully when we're talking this through, maybe I'll come to some sort of revelation and clarity, and I'll figure it out, and I'll know how I'm going to vote after talking it through with you guys, and we'll see. So Initiative Measure 24. The title of this is an initiated measure prohibiting contributions to ballot question committees by non-residents, out-of-state political committees, and entities that are not filed with the Secretary of State. So, on the surface, this sounds really great. This sounds like, oh, okay, no outside contributions from any other person. I mean, unless you're a resident or you're doing business within South Dakota, you are not allowed to send contributions of finance, people that are running for a legislative office, or finance a particular bill or measure or amendment or whatever. So on the surface, it sounds really good. I like the title. It looks good. I would say yes. But let's not be too hasty. Let's try to look into this a little bit further. What I don't like is that there's that little clause about entities registered or filed with the Secretary of State. So I think this sounds like, okay, if you're an outside entity and maybe you're doing business or want to influence something, or maybe want to bring your business to South Dakota, that you are wanting to contribute some campaign finances to an initiative or to a certain candidate. This bill says that you have to register with the Secretary of State in order to do that. And you have to do it 4 years prior to the election of when the candidate runs or when the initiative measure will appear on the ballot or amendment or whatever that they're trying to support. So on the surface, again, like I said, it still looks pretty good. You still have to file and you have to register. So that's fine. It's some red tape and it's some loopholes that people have to jump through in order to get and to be able to support the bill. So so far I'm in favor of this on the surface. Now that was just the title. So we're going to take a look at the meat of the bill here. So it is, this measure prohibits contributions to statewide ballot operation or statewide ballot question committees by non-residents, by political committees organized outside of South Dakota, and by any entity that is not filed as an entity with the Secretary of State for the 4 years prior to making a constitution. So again, that just summarizes everything I just explained. So we're good. It requires the Secretary of State to impose a civil penalty on any ballot question committee that accepts a prohibited contribution. The civil penalty is double the amount of the contribution. The measure requires the Secretary of State to investigate alleged contribution violations prohibited by this measure. That's a little bit different. So that sounds like as if, all right, so if candidate A accepts contribution dollars from Corporation X that is somewhere in Mississippi, for example, and they did not register with the Secretary of State as an entity 4 years prior to supporting this candidate, the candidate that accepted the funds will be fined double what the contribution was. So if the contribution was $10,000, they're going to get fined $20,000. It's not bad, but it's also a little risky, and it's almost, it's kind of mean a little bit. But it's accountability, and it keeps the politician candidates honest with their contribution funds. I still like this. It's a little bit more red tape, and our government has a lot of red tape, and sometimes we don't need so much red tape, but I still like it. All right, let's go on. Currently, there are state laws regulating other kinds of election-related contributions, disclaimers, and disclosures. Okay, but clearly they don't regulate these sort of out-of-state entities and contribution dollars. So, although there is something already on the books, it doesn't specifically indicate these type of contributions from these type of organizations. Violation of these laws are classified as misdemeanors currently and are subject to criminal penalties. The measure allows a court to impose a civil penalty up to $5,000 per violation, in addition to the criminal penalty. Under the measure, the Secretary of State must investigate alleged violations of these particular election-related laws. All civil penalties collected under this measure will be placed in the state general fund. So, again, here we go with trickiness. They want to impose all these fines and regulations, and then the money goes to the general fund. The general fund, if you remember from our discussion about the Constitutional Amendment W, general fund dollars are dollars that the legislature, the governor, these people can elect to spend anywhere that they so choose without any voter any voter input on where that money is spent. General fund's a good thing to have as a backup resource if it's used and handled properly. I'm not sure we have a lot of laws and governing regulations to kind of put parameters around how the general fund is used by legislature or by the governor, which probably is something we should maybe look at down the road. So either way, I mean, I guess that's the negative part of Initiative Measure 24. Overall, though, I think this is a good initiative. I think it, again, keeps our candidates and our politicians accountable for where they're getting their money from, how they're being financed, who's backing them, what kind of business and organization morally is supporting your candidate of choice. So I like this, again, although there is a little clause in here that the measure is likely to be challenged on constitutional grounds if it is passed. So there must be something in here more than what we're seeing to indicate that it would be challenged by the Constitution that's already in place. I don't know if it's going to actually would go there or not. It might. I'm still in favor of this, and I think regulation is important, especially when it comes to campaign financing. The only likely fiscal impact related to this initiated measure will be if the measure is challenged. Based on previous court cases handled by the state, a median case like this costs approximately $76,000 to challenge. So, we take a risk with trying to pass this initiative. Somebody somewhere is going to challenge it, and we'll go to court, and it'll cost us roughly $76,000. But I think in the grand scheme of things, that could come out of the general fund, and we would probably benefit as a whole long term. Maybe not short term, but long term from passing this initiative. Again, I'm an independent registered voter. I am not Democrat, and I am not Republican, so I don't know if that helps you break this down a little bit, but it's always good to kind of talk it out and hear it out loud before you go into the voting booth and then try to read this and you feel rushed because there's a line behind you. I like to do my work up front, fill out my sample ballot, take it with me to the voting booth. You could do the same thing. All you have to do is go to the Secretary of State website, and you can print out a sample ballot for your specific district. and fill it out ahead of time. Take it with you. There's nothing that says you can't do that. In fact, it's probably encouraged that you do so that you're in there and in and out quicker, and you don't have to worry about reading and trying to understand it all beforehand. That's why I put these videos together also, so you can have your sample ballot, listen to what I have to say, formulate your own opinion, and go from there. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it was helpful. If you want to give me any feedback, I welcome any feedback. My email address is understandingstuff42@gmail.com. Any and all replies requested will be answered. You can criticize, you can educate, you can give me a pat on the back, say, hey, I like what you're doing. Please do more. Anything at all, I'd love to hear from you. Again, November 6th, 2018 is our election for the South Dakota general election. There's a lot on there to vote for. Your vote counts. Please get out and vote. If you haven't already, do so. It is important. It does matter, and your voice needs to be heard. Thank you. Have a good day.